This week in our collective heads, wanna put an old rumor to bed. Stereotype that you've all heard, how we're all just angry video game nerds. Most of us have actual jobs, kids and families and cats and dogs, yeah. This week in our collective heads, this week in our collective heads.
Welcome to This Week in Our Collective Heads. I'm Kevin, and I'm joined by the best doggy daddy ever, Patrick.
I try. They're my babies. I give them apples and such. Not the whole apple, just a little bit. But welcome to This Week in Our Collective Heads. We're doing gaming news like we do every single week, giving you the important parts of gaming news and what happened this week, what may happen, some predictions. We try to be as accurate as possible. We preface everything if it's a rumor and all that. We also want to give you the context of if something's happening, why it's important, and what you should not necessarily think about it, but what you should know about it and what the context may be, and then you can get your own, come to your own conclusions and make fun of our conclusions because sometimes they're off. But I swear, I guarantee I'm not off on the Nintendo subscription. The way I feel about it is exactly what I think they're gonna do. Anyways, we start the show like we do every single week with Backwards Compatible. Past couple weeks, we've only gotten one a week. Yeah. But still, there's so many OG Xbox games that have been coming out and everything. I'm not complaining. We got Fight Night Champion, which the Fight Night games are the EA boxing games, which I thought were pretty cool on the Xbox 360. It's one of the first games that I went over, because I didn't have a 360 when it launched. I didn't have a 360 for I think 4 years into the launch. And I went over to someone's house and they were playing Fight Night. And it was one of the first games that I looked that the graphics just looked unreal to me. They were too good for everything else that I'd been playing. I mean, I was playing PS2. I was playing, bumming a friend's, GameCube. I would still pop out the PS1 and N64, and then I came over and saw Fight Night on Xbox 360, and it was just phenomenal. And I don't know a lot about this one. But I do know that the franchise has been consistent in what it gives, which is boxing. I can't really badmouth it. I mean, it's like, it's accurate, kinda. It's accurate as you can be to something like that. We also got some news on net neutrality, which we're pretty happy about.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I'm just hoping this guy goes to jail. But that's not what we're talking about here.
No. Yeah. This is kind of the first hurdle as far as net neutrality goes. We needed to get 51 votes in the Senate in order for it to be brought to the floor for debate. Yeah. And so we needed to get a couple of Republicans in on that, and through various people expressing how important this is to us and how much this is necessary. We were able to get 3 Republicans to come over and work that out, all the Democrats. And so now that can be brought to the floor for debate. Yeah. Granted, this is the easiest of the hurdles because there's a whole lot more to do, but this is basically the first step toward bringing net neutrality back. Yeah. And I'm really excited about that. It's also being challenged in the courts. And so we have multiple ways that this is going to happen, but I wanted to thank everybody who's taken the time to call their representatives and let them know this is important to us. This a priority. Yeah,
and I know I've said it on the show before, and I can't go into like all the details about it because I'm still seeing it every now and then. From a corporate standpoint, from a large scale standpoint, from a telecom standpoint, a lot of the big name companies are already acting like this is law, and they're doing whatever they want. It is causing issues for a lot of these companies are causing issues for a lot of big name companies right now. So think about what if they're going to do it to a large corporation. And by that I mean if a telecom company and I'm just saying this hypothetically, let's say like Verizon is going to implement something that's going to completely screw over a large corporation, what do you think they're going to do to the average person?
Yeah, well,
the average person pays them pennies. They're not going to care. so they're gonna fuck them over even worse. I mean, we try not to have horrible language on the show, but that's basically what's going to happen. We're already having issues with large corporations having to fight up against some of these telecom companies because the telecom companies go, oh, well, this is going to be law. I'm just going to start doing it now. Because by the time someone complains, they figure it out, they get everything going, it'll be law, and they'll just go, oh, we were preparing. Because they've done that in the past. Anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox on that. We had some news last week. We have a lot of E3 rumors coming out, which we're going to do an E3 predictions show as soon as possible because so much is coming out. We had a lot of E3 leaks. And one of the E3 leaks that came out is Rage 2, which I discussed because you weren't on the show, but I was saying that I thought it was a definite possibility, and then in addition to that, Bethesda themselves were hinting at it, and now it's official. It's a thing that they've been working on, which it's a very Bethesda thing to be working on something and have it this far, and then say, oh yeah, that's real.
Yeah, one of the things that was. Rage was a game that came out, and a lot of people were like, "Okay, this is a game that exists." There wasn't a whole lot of hype or excitement surrounding this, but one of the critiques of the original Rage game was that it was very bland. It came out in a time when the color palette was very limited.
Brown.
And is brown and sepia and all that. Yeah. And what I see in this title is that it looks like it's much more colorful, it's much more vibrant. It's like a punk apocalypse.
Yeah. Which
I think that sounds interesting, and Bethesda in the last couple of years has become kind of the vanguard of single player first person shooter experiences.
Sure.
And so I'm definitely curious. I'm going to check it out. I didn't play the first one, but this looks more interesting to me. And plus, until Borderlands 3 comes out, I want to have some random craziness in my apocalypse.
Agreed. And Borderlands is the exact comparison that I was going to go for in this. When the first one came out, I've been a sucker for post-apocalyptic genre. It's become very jaded. It's become oversaturated now. But at the time, it wasn't that oversaturated. Borderlands was a thing, and then Rage came out, and I looked at it and thought, well, that looks cool. And then the reviews started coming out, and it was very much, the story's not that great, and more that I've seen of it, I heard that it tried, not that it was trying to emulate Borderlands, but the humor wasn't there. Like it was like close to being funny, but it really didn't nail that humor, because Borderlands has this sick, cynical feel to it that and everyone is nuts in their own way, trying to, I guess, cope with it's a freaking comic book, and Rage was like, let's make that a little bit more realistic and try to keep some humor, and it didn't quite, the mix kind of didn't work. At least that's what I heard from people. This seems like it's a lot better, and from what I'm seeing, it looks like the graphics are better. I will say that Bethesda, a lot of times they'll come out with a game and it's okay, and then they come out with the sequel and it just completely surpasses it. What was the Dishonored is a good example of that. With a game that it wasn't bad on the onset, but then the sequel just takes what it did well and improves on it and then fixes problems. I guess Mass Effect 2 would be another good example. It's BioWare, but I'm excited about this. I'm definitely going to pick it up.
Speaking of teams and everything, so did you catch who it is that's going to be actually making this?
I didn't.
Okay, so it's Avalanche and I forget the name of the other team, but it's the Mad Max team combined with the Just Cause team.
So this game is going to be pretty...
Exactly. That sounds like a winning combination. And so it's very, very brief, but most of the gameplay, we got the gameplay trailer this week.
Yeah.
And so most of the gameplay trailer just shows guns and stuff, but there's a moment, and you'll have to go through and watch it yourself because I wasn't able to point it out when it happened, but there's a moment when they fling this like this little boomerang looking bladed thing.
Yeah.
And I would be really excited if that's something that I like it when they give us interesting weapons, rather than just guns and shotguns and whatever. And so if that's something that comes into the game and it's like the abilities, that could be a lot of fun.
Agreed. Speaking of first-person shooters and abilities, we got some news on Black Ops 4, which I sat through the entire presentation of. And I texted you during it. I think you were sleeping. But I think you were sleeping during it, like when I texted you. But I texted you something to the effect of like, I don't understand why they're still talking. Like, this presentation could have been a 15-minute presentation.
How long was it?
I don't freaking know. I mean, I had to keep pausing it to handle some things. I'm gonna guess 45 minutes, maybe an hour.
Jeez.
It just kept going. It may have been even longer than that. It was grueling, and I feel like what happened was this would have been considerably better spent money and time wise if they had done something like Nintendo does with the directs, which I think is it's a very 21st century. It's a very technology cognizant way to give information to the public, because we don't have to be in a big conference room to hear about a presentation. I love E3. E3 is the freaking Super Bowl. But a lot of these presentations, you don't have to rent out a big space. You don't have to do this. I feel like they did that, and then they just kept like stretching things. I will say it was funny when they talked about is there going to be wall running? No. Is there going to be
boots on the ground?
Boots on the ground. So I was like, okay, that's funny. But a lot of the stuff, it just seemed like they were really stretching out to fill up time. We did get some interesting bits of it. We do have Blackout, which did I get the video of?
Yeah, and Blackout is the battle royale version. They've said that it's going to be 1,500 times the size of Nuketown, which, to be fair, Nuketown is tiny.
Yeah.
But they haven't said anything about the number of players that it's going to be. We believe that it's probably going to be 100, but we really don't know. It's going to have characters from basically the entire Blops franchise and vehicles, and there's a lot of interesting things that they're doing there. The thing that's interesting to me is that for the first time in multiplayer, they're going to have support classes. So like there's healers and like and tech people where you can set up a I think it's called like a reactor core or something, and it does damage over time over an area through walls and things like that, and that type of move to a hero based system where you don't have to be good at shooting is massively appealing for me. I
agree. You can have support classes. There's basically a support healer kind of thing with cooldowns. It is hero based. I mean, let's be honest. And you and I talked about this before. The fact that Call of Duty is stealing from successful franchises is not a bad business move. I feel like it's a little bit creatively bankrupt, but I think that what they're doing is they're saying what are people playing now? What are our core gamers doing and playing? How are they spending their time? Well, they're spending their time playing Overwatch, playing Fortnite. That's really what the big things are. Well, if you can put a support based hero abilities into Call of Duty, then that brings on those players. It has them keep playing, and I think that it breaks up the monotony in regards to a first person shooter. And in this case, I think that you have to suspend disbelief a little bit, because let's break this down. We're talking about They said, hey, we're going to be more realistic. We're bringing it back to basics. We're going to be boots on the ground. But you've got these crazy generators that cause damage, and you can throw healing bomb things at people. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're choosing what fantasy you want to live in at this point.
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with it. I think this is going to be a lot better. I think this is going to be better than the whatever the futuristic Call of Duty thing crap was.
Yeah.
I get them all kind of confused.
One other thing that I really appreciate about it is that they've said that they're moving away from the whole kill-death ratio as the only metric by which you judge yourself.
Very happy about that.
And for people like me, that is massively appealing, because I want to be able to help. And like as the healer class, you get points or credit or whatever it is that they're giving you whenever you contribute to the team. Mm-hmm. And that for me is hugely appealing. And so this is definitely something that I'm going to pick up at Redbox. And if I know that my brothers play this, so whenever they pick it up, I'll see if it's something that I actually enjoy. And despite the fact that this doesn't have a single player campaign, because I like you, I'll pick it up every once in a while and just kind of run through the campaign. But the idea of keeping the shooting mechanics that have been that they've almost perfected, and being able to bring a new perspective into it, and you call it creatively bankrupt. I see it as paying attention to what people are actually doing, what people are actually playing, what people want to play.
Sure, but that's a marketing analysis, like, is really what it is at that point. I mean, we're taking it away from this is no longer art created by artists. It is art created to fill to appeal to the people who they think are going to be buyers. So instead of creating a film or a novel that has substance, you're saying, what are people looking at, watching, reading? Let me write something like that. It's essentially 50 Shades of Grey. People are reading Twilight. Let me write something like Twilight. Let me write some Twilight fan fiction. Here you go, and then people buy it. That's what this is. I mean, it is.
So there you have it. Black Ops 4 is the 50 Shades of Grey of the Call of Duty universe.
Now
moving on
really quick. I will argue with myself though, because previously I had stated that without the single player, that this game was not going to sell as well. After seeing the presentation, seeing what they're doing in regards to the hero mechanics, in regards to Blackout, I do not think that this will sell. I don't think that this will sell less than their expectation, and by that I mean taking out the single player campaign is not going to be detrimental to it the way that taking out couch co-op was to Halo. You're taking out a core element, but I think they're adding enough that you're going to get people to still buy it. I don't think it will sell. It may not sell as well as the last one, but I don't think that they'll look at it as a commercial failure after removing the single player, which is a double-edged sword, because I want the single player. I just wanted to say that.
So we'll see how that goes. Let us know in the comments what you think about the new Black Ops, and whether you see it as reflecting what's happening in the industry, or if you see it as just kind of a cash in. Yeah. But the next up we have and Xbox has released an accessibility controller, which do you have an image for that?
I've got video of it playing.
Okay. Well, but yeah, this is something that I think is really awesome, and Microsoft has collaborated with some people who were already working in the field of accessibility for gamers, and it's for people who have limited hand-eye coordination, and basically make it where games are more accessible to more people. And I applaud them, and I think that this is a really fantastic step in moving towards something that makes gaming available for everybody. It's just like when they introduced the colorblind mode into the Call of Duty games. It's like just make it more accessible to more people. And I think this is a really awesome setup that will allow that will allow people who had been frustrated previously
Yeah.
to be able to enjoy the hobby that they like.
Yeah, and there's so many people who want to play games that can't play games, who are born with disabilities, people who are in accidents, who can't physically do things they wanted to do before. There are people who want to be part of this hobby that can't. That being said, obviously there are some games that this will still have problem at its core will still not be able to work with in regards to, like, playing something like Dark Souls or playing Overwatch. But there are so many games that they should be able to play and conquer and have that feeling of being able to not only enjoy the hobby but also to overcome a challenge. And these are people who are overcoming a challenge in their life every day, and they're able to overcome this. Like I said, people who were gamers or people who could never get into gaming because the controls are not only does it have hand-eye coordination, but the buttons are small. They are made for the average person's hands. So if you have a disability in regards to missing, if you have a missing hand, one of the gentlemen in the videos, I think I don't know if he's in an accident or what, but he has he doesn't have his hand anymore, or doesn't have a left hand, and he has trouble gripping things and putting on shirts. And this allows him to be able to play video games, and it's modular. That's one thing I loved about it. When I saw the image at first, I thought, oh, I get what they're doing. They're trying to make it more accessible, and then I realized there's a bunch of USB ports. You can change out what the D-pad is like. You can change out what all these inputs are, which really customizes it for the person for the gamer, which I think is amazing. It's amazing.
And so we just wanted to extend a massive applause to Microsoft for being able to see a need among people that want to enjoy their products, and being like, here, let's work with the community that already exists, like you said, the mods and everything. Yeah. People were already doing this, but for Microsoft to step in and be like, hey, let us help you and let us work with you as this subset of the community to bring you into the fold. And we just thought that was really awesome and wanted to highlight that. Yeah.
Just including more people. Inclusion is always good. Inclusion is always wonderful. And speaking of inclusion, the Crew 2 is going to get a beta the end of this month, the end of May.
Yeah. So I didn't actually play the first Crew. It was a game that kind of came and went. For me at least, it didn't really have a whole lot of hype around it. By the time it actually came out, but I am curious about the closed beta and what that's going to look like. I'm
curious about it. But the reason that I didn't get into it is the Crew was really bringing on the idea of having a crew, of having a group of people that you go do races with, that you go do heists with, and all, where it's all driving based, but you are doing things as a group, as a crew. And I don't know a lot of people who play racing games that often, and also I don't have a big drive to play racing games because I have to play so many for Gold Plus Roundup, and it's not my preferred genre. I've played enough that I can play one and kind of get the idea of, oh, this is good, this is bad, from an objective standpoint. But also the launch of the Crew wasn't very good, so I'm hoping that this is better, because the launch was pretty poor on it, and that's what really. That hurts. A poor launch is going to hurt any multiplayer games unless you're an MMO. I mean, MMOs can kind of recover a little bit. Another game that
briefly, this is a closed beta, but you can go online and register with Ubisoft to sign up for the beta. So if this is something that you're interested in, you can absolutely get access to it, and that's going to be going down on May 31st until June 4th.
Exactly. So. Another game that I didn't get to play, which this goes in my I guess my wall of shame as a gamer, at least my personal wall of shame, is Okami. I was told about this. It looks wonderful. I had friends and coworkers tell me you have to play this game, and I didn't have any reason not to play it other than I guess I was just doing other things. There's not an actual legit reason not to play it. But this is coming out in August on Switch, which I'm happy about because I think that the Switch should be able to handle this well. It's a port from I should say it should be able to handle it well. I think that the art style will really help in regards to handheld, because even if you do have a lot of screen real estate, like a few of these bits, because of the art style, it's going to allow not only the Switch to be able to process it, but for you to still be able to enjoy everything. And touchscreen involved in here is going to help really well as well.
That's one of the things that I thought would be especially useful, because playing it on a device that you just kind of move a cursor to do the painting, I think is a lot less. I don't know. I think that there's something special about this game in allowing you to actually feel like you're doing the painting, doing the art, because it's art. It's an art heavy game. Yes. It feels very beautiful, and so the ability to sit there and actually do the painting with your finger or stylus or whatever, I think will to it. And so I'm looking forward to playing it again. I agree with that context.
I agree. I will say I stopped myself and I said should be able to process this well, because I'm playing LA Noire right now on Nintendo Switch, and I remember that, and I hate like doing this, but I remember it being buggy on the PS3 when I played it, and certain lag issues. The game doesn't require that much of the Twitch kind of reactions when you're playing. So I feel like maybe that was on the back burner when they were in development. They were more concentrating on the story, more concentrating on the facial animations and everything. Yeah. But I literally had a time last night, Whitney and I were playing it, and she caught up to the suspect, and he put up his arms, and she was like, I don't know what I can, like, she's walking around him, he's got his arms up, the cutscene would not trigger. And I was like, do you need to pull your gun on him? Because previously it was prompting her saying, pull your gun and point, because if you point it, you're basically threatening, and eventually they'll go, okay, I'll give up. Yeah. Shooting for some reason didn't do it, but pointing to it, while they're running away would scare them. Anyways, he stops, puts his arms up, and the cutscene took probably about 20 to 25 seconds to trigger. And 20 to 25 seconds of us of like running in a circle, going back, going forward, trying to figure out that was completely uncalled for. The rest of the game has been okay, but every now and then you have these weird moments. Which I haven't had a problem with the facial animation yet, but I'm waiting for the moment to happen where they blatantly lie and you could hear it in their voice, but the facial animation is just really like normal, and you're like, because did you play LA Noire? I can't remember.
I did not.
Okay, so they'll make a statement, and then you have to decide. You do good cop, bad cop, or accuse. And good cop meaning you're like, I agree with what you're saying, and let's go forward. Bad cop meaning that doesn't sound quite right, and you get a little more aggressive. And then accuse is straight up like, no, you didn't do that. Well, they'll say something, and then it has the prompt, so you see their face where they're not static on their expression, but they're kind of redoing their expression multiple times, so you can get a hint of this is where they're going, right? So if they're doing something, if they're looking straight at you, that's you. They're like, okay, they're pretty genuine. But if they keep doing that, looking at this, if they're shifty, you're like, oh, something's wrong. So it'll play that kind of shiftiness over and over. So you go, this doesn't seem right, and then you can look at your evidence and figure out, should I pinpoint something and say, no, you're wrong because of this. I haven't had a problem where it played the wrong facial animation yet, but yeah, the combat has sucked, and everything. I feel like it shouldn't have that on the Switch. It shouldn't be that poor.
Yeah. that game was a very ambitious game for the time, and it seems like from what I've seen of graphics comparisons back and forth, it seems like they did a lot more focusing on making sure that the facial animations were clear and obvious and everything. And it didn't really seem that they did a whole lot on the back end to actually fix some of the jankiness and issues that the game had before.
Yeah, you're exactly right. They wanted to concentrate on facial animation. They wanted to, because that's the core of the game, is investigating and interrogating. And investigating, you're wandering around in a crime scene or different other scenarios, and then interrogating, you're talking to someone. But the combat is there, but it's very weak because there's not a lot of it. Is my guess. And
Okami, on the other hand, is artistic and beautiful, and most of your combat is very very smooth, and I mean, half of it is with jars picking up various things, but like the Okami is a really fantastic game that is unlike almost anything else I've ever played, and so I highly recommend it. I hope you do get a chance to play it whenever it comes out in August. Speaking of releases and not releases, PlayStation has announced that they are going to end the physical production of Vita cartridges, so that people can't do games anymore. Limited run game, a good chunk of things that they're going to be doing, things that were already in the works, things like that, and so those are going to continue to come out. These are going to keep coming out in Japan, where the Vita is still apparently going strong, but in the US and in Europe, production is going to be ending, and so that is unfortunate. But honestly, with the poor reception for the Vita and the fact that they kept it going for 7 years, the Vita will probably be one of my it's in my top 3 and probably will remain in my top 3 consoles of all time. It was a really fantastic little system, and I'm really grateful for all that they did for it. So there are a couple of significant Vita physical releases that are coming out. Cosmic Star Heroine, and what's the other one? The Bloodstained. I get them mixed up because it's just a bunch of old Castlevania titles mixed and mashed. But I think it's Curse of the Moon is the 8-bit one.
Something like that.
And then Symphony of Something is going to be the
Sorrow, I want to say. I can't remember. Yeah. Symphony of Sorrow. I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you. I'm surprised they kept it going as long as they did. I think if the Japanese market hadn't been so big on Vita, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, this was longer than the Nintendo DS and DSi put together. I mean, it's had a long life. It's surprising that it's still so big in Japan, but I think that's because the Switch has only been out for just over a year. I think the Switch will take over in that because it right now the problem is the price for the Nintendo Switch, because you can get a PS Vita for a lot cheaper, and there's so many games to play on it. Now the games are drying up, and the Switch price will. If it won't go down, people will invest in it because that's going to be the future. Yeah.
But it does have an amazing library of PS1, PS2 games, and I still love mine, and it's just a really neat thing. And then a little bit more Vita news. May 22nd, Stardew Valley is actually coming to Vita, which is something that I had kind of given up on, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, Stardew Valley is coming there, and you can do all the farming you want on your Vita.
Which I can't remember if this is. I'm pretty sure this is coming to Switch as well.
It's already on Switch.
It's already on Switch. Okay. Yeah. I knew that. I couldn't remember if it was or if it's already coming, because I can totally see this as a handheld experience. Makes perfect sense to be able to have something. I always say that I view handheld games as a game. For a successful handheld game, it should be a game that you can say, oh, I've got a quick 5 minutes or whatever, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. You can jump in, accomplish something, and then jump out. good example would be like I think Diablo 3 would not be that good of a handheld game because of how deep it can get. You can get into playing something like that. That being said, Skyrim on the go has been interesting, but at the same time, I'm able to kind of stop what I'm doing by putting console into sleep mode. So there's always exceptions to the rule, but one thing I am excited about that I don't think will be coming to Switch is Shenmue 3, which is delayed to 2019. Does not surprise me that it's delayed. This is we're going to get it when we get it kind of situation. I feel like it's going to be a Last Guardian situation as well, or a Final Fantasy 15 situation, where there is no way that this game will A, live up to the hype, and B, be able to recapture how great the originals were for their time. They were so ambitious in a way that they were doing things that like Grand Theft Auto like later stole for Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5. The idea of you having a huge open world and missions, but you can also go bowling, or you can also go eat at this restaurant.
I really feel like the Yakuza games are one of the greatest legacies that Shenmue kind of left, because that's something that allows you to get into the minutia of day-to-day life in these characters.
You actually and then, live there. I mean, you really live.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You go to
You cut out, but I think you're talking about going to work. Sorry, you cut out, but you're talking about going to work. You can go to work. You could, you can, drive a taxi and all these other things that seems mundane, but you could do that, or you could, do Life of Crime, whatever you want to do. Obviously, there's a story involved, but it gives you this freedom to live in this world. I don't think it's going to live up to it. Delayed till 2019. I'm not surprised. I'm not worried. I'm not invested in this game. So I'm like, could push it out to 2019. If it's good, great. I mean, that's fine. I don't know. I feel like this is not going to live up to any hype.
So not only are we not surprised, but this is another prediction. Because at the beginning of the year, we talked about games that were announced for 2018 that we didn't believe were coming. We both said that Shenmue 3 was going to be pushed to 2019, so we get another point.
We do, and that's what matters in this whole thing. What is that?
And speaking of points and things that we anticipated, the NES Classic is actually coming back June 29th, which I'm excited about. It does lend credence to the idea that the Virtual Console, whenever it shows up, is going to be something completely different. But the NES Classic and the Super Nintendo Classic are getting re-releases. They're starting with the NES Classic, coming back June 29th. And that was something that I was actually never able to find a copy of. And so I might pick that up this time. But the Super NES, they appealed to me. But I'm really grateful that they're bringing this back out and allowing people who were never able to find it the first time or missed it the first time for whatever reason, will be able to have it. And so that's coming back, and you'll be able to pick that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy that it's coming out for collector reasons, because I want one. I mean, the SNES, the NES Classic and the SNES Classic are very similar in this. Like the way that they emulate, and also the way that their save states work, is excellent. I didn't get to get one either when it originally launched. I'm glad that it's returning. They said they're going to try to keep the stores, or they're going to continue putting them out to distributors and everything through the end of the year, if not, and I think they said halfway through next year or something, for NES and SNES Classic. So I would say, if you really want one, then June 29th, target that and get one now. Don't wait till towards the end of the year. For if it's a Christmas present you're trying to grab, get it now and throw it in the closet, because because trying to get one of these in November or December is going to be impossible. Like I said before, I think the Switch Virtual Console, which is not going to be called Virtual Console. I think it is going to be a Netflix subscriber based thing where they get, that's basically what they said before, was you pay the subscription, you get to play their games, and they're going to rotate out which games are on there. They've not clarified or stated otherwise. So I think that's what they're going to go with. Yeah. And that's sad to me because I want to be able to choose what to play and have a catalog as to what to play. I don't want to log in and realize that The Legend of Zelda or whatever game I want to play is no longer part of their. It's like going on Netflix and you're on season 7 of whatever show and you realize they've taken your TV show off of Netflix. That's the kind of situation we're talking about. I don't like it, and I think that's what they're going to move forward with an option to buy. I think is how they're going to do it. It's going to be behind that paywall. We'll see what happens on it. Either way, I think it's kind of sucky. What is not sucky, though, is news that we got in regards to Uematsu and Final Fantasy VII.
Yes.
So
Uematsu has been connected to the Final Fantasy VII remake. We continue to hear little bits of news about this. Uematsu is for me one of the greatest video game composers ever, and the music that he makes translates to an orchestral vibe. Particularly if you go and actually on Spotify there's a track that is kind of a mini compilation of some of the best bits of the Final Fantasy VI, and whatever limitations he was dealing with on a hardware basis at the time, I feel like what he heard was something much grander, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with One Winged Angel in particular, because it's a really amazing epic track.
Well, and he composed Final Fantasy VII as well, right?
He did.
He was the composer on Final Fantasy VII, and that was the first time you're opening up and having CD quality audio. You're jumping from cartridge based where you're very limited in regards to not only the soundscapes, but you're limited in regards to the space. And the Final Fantasy VII was the first Final Fantasy game to not only have CD quality audio, but to an extent say, well, let's play a little bit with the amount of space involved here. We can pad this out, or we don't have to pad it, but we don't have to worry about space as much as we had to before. Interesting complete side note on that, because people talk about Final Fantasy VII being on 3 discs. Have you seen the space allocation on those 3 discs?
I have not.
So they're almost, I want to say it's 75 or 80%, if not more, of disc 2 and disc 3 is filled with the assets of disc 1. Because you have to go back, or you can go back, even though you're on disc 3, you can go back to any of the places in the other. That's funny. So essentially, if that had been made and they had say 25% more space to put on a disc, it would have been 1 disc. It was that close of a limitation.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, because you think, oh, it's massive, it's on 3 discs. Well, kind of. It's a lot of duplication because you're not loading it. If it was installed onto a PC, it didn't have to be 3 discs because you're installing those assets. So I just thought that was interesting from a geek standpoint. Something I don't think. Know that. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Something I don't think is I should say is notable.
It's interesting.
It's interesting, notable. They have announced the live-action Monster Hunter movie, and it is going to star Mila Jovovich. And immediately when I saw that, I knew who the director was going to be. I immediately knew it was Paul W.S. Anderson, because anything that he does, he has to include his wife in. Yeah. And I can't think of a project that she's been in that has not involved him in the past 5 years. And that being said, I think that the Resident Evil movies have been increasingly more dumb, but I will say at least this is the greatest compliment I think I can give Mila Jovovich. She is the female Tom Cruise in movies.
Yeah.
She can make some action movies. We were watching, Whitney and I were watching a trailer for the new Mission Impossible movie, and she was like, it looks good, I'm gonna see it, but you know, his personal life, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but what Tom Cruise does, you know, what he does. Sorry, I'm just fixing your. For some reason, this is stuck on the bottom. What he does in regards to movies surpasses, you know, that, and kind of makes you feel like, you know, sorry, I'm trying to fix it, for some reason it's not full screening your thing. Maybe it will now. Maybe. There we go. She's great at action. She was good in one movie, in Fifth Element. If you've watched, I'm assuming you haven't watched Blue Lagoon 2. That was the Blue Lagoon movie that she was in, which I think is one of the first movies that she was in. She's not very good in that. And she has been mediocre in everything else that she's done from an acting standpoint. But her action scenes are amazing. She looks good doing it, and her action scenes are well done. So I can't really. Is it going to be a good movie? I don't know. Is it going to be action filled? Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a popcorn movie. And what plot do you need from that Monster Hunter movie, really?
Well, they've told us a little bit about the plot. Is that she's being drawn from the real world into the world of Monster Hunter, and then comes back. My thing is that one of the beautiful things about Monster Hunter is that it's a world that exists without you. These are creatures that are just there. They're existing. They're doing their own thing, and you're kind of the invader.
You are. So hold on. So she's from the outside world, goes in to the Monster Hunter world, then comes back. So it's Jumanji.
Apparently, yeah.
It's Jumanji.
Very, very much so.
Yeah. Which, by the way, the new Jumanji was hilarious. If you haven't seen it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I love Dwayne Johnson. So
he's great in it. Jack Black is phenomenal. Not because there are 4 kids that get pulled. This doesn't spoil anything. There are 4 kids that get pulled into the game, right? 4 kids that get pulled into the game, and they each embody the character in the game. So it's like you select your character. The person who selected Jack Black is the stereotypical vapid millennial Instagram high school chick. So she is like, you know, the Mean Girls level of like, doesn't care about anybody but herself, and is now a middle-aged fat short man, and it is amazing.
Yeah, I can see that.
The Rock is phenomenal as always. Kevin Hart's pretty funny. I don't think it's one of his best movies, but what's her face from Doctor Who? What's wrong with me?
Amy Pond?
Yeah, Amy Pond is great in it. Yeah, Karen Gillan. She's great in this, and you saw Infinity War, so you're seeing she's doing better as Nebula. I thought the first Guardians. You saw the first Guardians, right?
Yes.
The first Guardians, I thought she was. There was a little bit of awkwardness.
She was passable.
Yeah, and the second Guardian, she got a lot better. I don't think you've seen that one yet. You need to. She got a lot better in that one. So I feel like she's growing as an actress where if it wasn't for Doctor Who, then she would continue to have been a model, and she wouldn't have been able to stretch and grow as an actress because that was what she was. She lucked out with Doctor Who. I thought that she did decent for what she needed to do for Doctor Who, but she wasn't amazing. She wasn't Clara. I mean, the relationship was really good, but I'm just talking about her acting ability. And her acting ability has grown since Oculus and other crappy movies that she's been in. Anyways, that's off topic, but let us know what you think of the Monster Hunter movie. If you think that it's going to be an additional, cash in for video game movies that won't matter, if you think that if you think it's something that's going to do well, then let us know in the comments, and let us know if you think it's going to do better than Tomb Raider. We'll see you later.
Thanks for watching This Week in Our Collective Heads. Subscribe over here and click the bell. And that way you'll know about any new videos that we put up, because we put up a lot of gameplay, a lot of stories from games and stuff like that, and gameplay is down here.
Yeah, and you got more editorials and news stuff down here. Check it out.